What's up guys, happy Sunday, and more importantly, happy Father's Day to all the dads watching. So thank you for tuning into my latest video, The Life of a Jobbing Plumber. If you don't already, please subscribe to my channel, and if you like this video, please stick a like on it. So this week, well, the last 2 weeks has been a bit stressful because, well, I'm in my van now, but I didn't get it back till the middle of this week. So I've not been with my van for a week and a half. The MOT was overdue, so I couldn't drive the van, couldn't get it in anywhere. And also it needed a new cam belt. So that was done. It was supposed to get my van back Wednesday. I didn't end up getting it back till Thursday, late afternoon. So I had kit in this van, in my dad's van. We started that big job that I'm working with Ben on. So it was a bit difficult because you can't, you guarantee the bit of kit you need is on the van you're not in and stuff like that. And then on one of the days I had to pick Ben up because his van was having new tyres, so we're working out of one van. Yeah, just a bit crazy, but it's been really nice starting that big job. I do like doing the occasional big job because a lot of my work's reactive, breakdowns and the boring stuff like gas certs. And also because I work on my own a lot of the time, it's nice to work with someone. You get a bit of banter, you can talk, chat, have stories. He's a real nice guy. He's very, cares about his job, so he likes to do a good job. I've never worked with him before. We've passed jobs to each other because we're local, but we've never actually done a job together before, so I'm really enjoying it. So that's been this week, and what I've been doing is going to that job in the day, finishing 3:30, 4 there, and then going and doing my regular work after. So 2 or 3 gas certs or breakdowns at the end of the day, which means I've been finishing late the last week. But hopefully now we've got into the job and sort of broke the back of it and we know what we're doing, it'll be a lot easier for the next 3 weeks. It's going to be about 4 weeks in total, I think. We've got Zach coming to help end of next week, and then Marcus is coming 2 weeks on Monday to help as well. So this week's video is just a few little breakdown bits, and more importantly this week we've got the update from Sam. Sam's the lad who's doing the fast track. Well, I say fast track. He's paying to do his gas qualification. He's a qualified plumber, but he's doing his gas off his own back. So he's giving you some more details of what he's got up to there at the end of this video. This is one of those classic jobs where you go to it and you're already late and you just need it to be what you're there to do. And I was here just to do a gas certificate. But when I took the 2 screws out of the combustion box, I noticed there was water behind the screw hole, so I thought there's something not quite right here. Couldn't get the case off because I don't know when the last time it's been taken off, but the seal's sort of stuck. So a little bit of a tease with a screwdriver and you'll see water just starts to come out. And the tenant hadn't reported a fault. I was literally here to do the landlord gas safety check. And yeah, the boiler was absolutely soaked inside. And looking at the colour of the water, the rust, it looks like it's been doing it a long time. Now there's one very obvious thing I missed on here because I was running late and I just wanted to get the job done, which I'll talk you through in a second. So basically what I did, wet vac, got rid of as much water as I could. And then this was before I identified where the leak was coming from. I just wanted to get it sort of dry and then I could probably identify easier where it was leaking from. That's about as much water as I could get out using the wet vac. And then I noticed at the back there on the condense hose, that's directly off the sump from the boiler, you can see there's a split in the hose there, which is quite a common fault on these boilers. So you can imagine the plume that normally comes out of your flue would be filling up the burner box, and obviously it's been dripping as well. So yeah, dried it out as much as I could and then tried to clean some of the rust off. It's cleaning up quite well considering. But you can see here, the leads that have been sat in it are discoloured, they've got the rust on them. So it has been doing it for quite a while. Now this is the obvious thing that I missed, and I only twigged about it when someone on my Instagram messaged me. So at some point when this boiler's been worked on, that lead had been moved and taken above the fan, so it wasn't sat on the deck. If it had been lying where it was meant to be, and this had happened and it had filled up with water, that lead connection there would have got wet and interrupted, so basically stopped the boiler from firing. And if the boiler can't fire, it can't produce any more water to make it worse. But a series of unfortunate events, and that's what's happened. So here's the old hose that's taken out. They've actually redesigned this because it's been such a common problem. It's a nice thick black rubber one now. Very easy to get them out, but not easy to get them back in because of this clip. So to get it back in, and I needed to do this anyway to give the boiler a good clean out, I took the main burner out, which gets the fan out of the way to give me easier access to that clip. I just couldn't get a tool in to open it enough to, to get that on. So if you are replacing one of these, you probably will have to take the fan out, take the burner out to get to it, and make sure that that grommet is in place, because that's what makes this a room sealed appliance. So yeah, it was just a bit tricky to get that on. If you've got any tips for that, if you've got a better way of doing it without taking the burner out, then yeah, let me know in the comments. It gives me a chance to clean the heat exchanger, and then obviously I can bill the landlord for that as well. Right, so when a customer calls you with a job and they're losing pressure from their heating system on a combi boiler, there's normally two things it's going to be. The first one being a leak on the system. So the first thing I'll always ask them is, have you noticed any damp patches on the ceiling, on the floor, specifically near radiators, below radiators, radiator pipe work, valves dripping, stuff like that? Because if they've got a leak on the system, that's where they're losing their system pressure from. Also, a leak from the boiler. Any connections on the central heating circuit of a boiler, or even component parts in a boiler, leaking or dripping, will cause the pressure to go down. So leak on the system is the most obvious one. The second one is the PRV discharging. So that's the pipe outside. And that can be because it's blown, it's activated, and then it's not resat, or there's a bit of dirt blocking it and it's just slightly open, so it's constantly weeping. Or the pressure in the system is getting too high, and then it's getting up to 3 bar and the PRV is opening, discharging, and the boiler pressure is dropping down to 0. That is probably your most common one. And the reason that is probably your most common one is because people don't get their boilers serviced, or they do and the person servicing their boiler doesn't do it properly, because we need to be checking the expansion vessel on a combi boiler, or on any boiler really, when you're servicing it, which means draining the boiler, checking the charge. If it's low, pumping it up. So I've just been to a job where I had that exact problem, which I'm going to show you now. The customer had a friend around who just swapped the PRV without doing anything else, and they still had the same problem. And that's because the issue was actually with the expansion vessel. So with this issue here, when you turn central heating on and you've got it sat at 1 bar and it rises up pretty fast to 3 bar, the PRV discharges, that is an indication that your expansion vessel is either failed, so there's no air left in it, or the pipe between the expansion vessel and where it connects onto your heating pipe has got a blockage somewhere here, which is pretty common in this country due to water quality and the fact that this connection here, which you've probably seen on some of my videos before, is way too small. The bore in that pipe that connects the two is too small, it's easily blocked. Now, what I used to do when I was sort of learning my trade, one of the things we'd do is get like a sandwich bag or a plastic bag, and we would tape it around the PRV discharge, leave it overnight and say to them, was there any water in the bag? If there was, then we would put that down to the PRV and check in the expansion vessel. But all I do these days is just fire the heating up and I watch how quickly it goes from 1 bar up to 3. And if it goes there pretty quick, it's pretty much obvious that it's something to do with either this or this. So this is the job. The boiler's got 0 pressure in it. Customers had a friend over who's fitted a new PRV and it's not stopped the problem. And we can see here outside the PRV is still dripping. So they've got an issue with a brand new PRV, and that's because the PRV wasn't the problem. Obviously you can see that it's been dripping for quite a while. So I'm going to drain this boiler down like I normally do. We're going to take the rubber condense connection off. That's that bit there, and then obviously that goes to a drain. I've got nowhere to drain, relatively near to the boiler, and I keep this short length hose on my kit bag. So put that on there, and then I'm just draining into that. This is a recent thing that I've learned off. I think I saw someone do it on social media, and now I do it all the time. So it just saves you from running a long hose. And then once the boiler's completely drained, I mean, there was no pressure in it, so there was only a little bit of water came out. But now we're going to check the charge in this expansion vessel. So I've got my Milwaukee inflator pump, and you can see there it's got zero pressure in it, 0 charge. So I'm going to bump that up to 1 bar and then press go, and that's going to charge that expansion vessel. What I'll normally do is charge it up to 1 bar, leave this on for 5-10 minutes and just watch to see if it drops pressure. And on this job, it didn't. It stayed at 1 bar. So that's an indication that the expansion vessel is probably going to be okay, but it's not a guarantee. So pump that up to 1 bar, and if we nip back outside and look at the PRV, we'll see that it's still dripping. So it's still dripping, which means that that PRV is basically needs replacing. So I gave it a couple of days, and then I've popped back to this job with a new PRV just in case that's all it needs. Obviously, to do that, we need to drain it down. So same method with the hose on the drain point into the condense, get the boiler to 0. But there's no point just swapping the PRV like the last guy did without checking the expansion vessel. So if you remember, I bumped it up to 1 bar pressure, and when we attach it on, we should have 1 bar pressure in here, or very close to 1 bar pressure. It's only been a couple of days. As I screw this down onto the expansion vessel, we should get a reading. That 0 should go up to 1 bar or close, but you can see it's still on 0. So that indicates that the expansion vessel is flat again and needs replacing. So it wasn't just the PRV. Now, another way that you can lose system pressure, and this is quite rare, but it has happened to me on a couple of occasions. The first time was an absolute nightmare. I'll tell you the story in a minute. So basically, this is our main heat exchanger inside our combi boiler, and we've got the flow and return pipework coming from the central heating system. So we've got central heating water in the coil of the heat exchanger there, and then in the combustion box in the middle, that's where we get the heat that heats the water in here. And we've got a condense trap, so the condensation created from the process of this boiler working obviously trips down into the trap and goes to a drain. Now imagine in this main heat exchanger here, we've got a pinhole. So a tiny little hole, and water from our heating system is escaping and then dripping down through the condense trap and out to the drain. You would never know. I mean, the water being discoloured would be a telltale sign, but it might not be. It's just a very rare thing to happen, so it's not something you think to check. Now, I always check it because of what happened to me. So we did a job for a landlord. He didn't want to pay too much money. We ended up fitting him a Vakira compact 25HE boiler, and it's the first ever Vakira I'd fitted. Graham's, the plumbers merchants, told us they were brilliant. You know, well, we told my dad. Probably was led by the price, but he said that they said, oh, these boilers are they're selling loads of them, they're really good. So we went for one. We fitted it, and the house was, all the pipework came out of the concrete floor to the radiators. We connected onto it. It was working okay for a while. Then it started losing pressure. So we looked at, there's obviously a leak in the pipework under the floor in the concrete. That's why we can't see any damp patches. There's no leaks, obvious leaks on the radiators. So what we did was we went back and we repiped the whole of the downstairs heating system on drops. So we disconnected where it went into the concrete floor, and we had drops down every single wall to all the radiators. I think there was probably 6 radiators downstairs. So we did all that, put it back together, and it still lost pressure. So then we're scratching our heads thinking, what could it be? And in the end, it turned out to be the heat exchanger. And I had Vakira out, their service engineer came out, and he told me it was a common fault. He had about 4 heat exchangers on his van, so they must have known about it, but they would not cover it under the warranty, but the customer had to pay the price for the repair. So that's something to be aware of. Heat exchanger, pin hold, and then you're losing system pressure, system water through your condense trap. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, which is kind of linked to what we're talking about now, is plate heat exchanger. So we've got here the domestic hot water circuit inside a combi boiler. So the primary side of the plate, let's call it the top half of the plate, is system water, so the water that goes through your radiators. And then the bottom half of the plate, secondary side, is the wholesome water, the cold mains coming in, passing through it and coming out hot. Now I've had this on a couple of jobs that I can remember where the system was over pressurized. It was getting up to 3 bar. So did the normal things like check the expansion vessel, check that the filling link wasn't being left open or was letting by or, you know, passing. And that was fine. And it turned out to be a hole in the plate. So with a hole in the plate, whatever you've got coming in from your cold mains, say you've got 3-bar mains pressure, is going to force itself into the heating circuit and pressurize your boiler up to 3-bar. And I've definitely had that on a couple of jobs. What I can't remember is if I've ever had it where a split or a hole in the plate has led to low pressure. And I'm just thinking in my head now, the only way that would happen is if your incoming mains pressure was, say, 0.5 bar and you had a split in it, the system water at 1 bar pressure would force its way out, maybe when they open the tap, hot tap. But then again, if you've only got 0.5 bar coming in, you're never going to get your boiler up to the, I think it's 0.7 a boiler needs before it satisfies the pressure sensor. But even, you know, it'd have to be less than the system pressure for it to come the other way. So I don't think that's an issue. But if you've ever had an issue with a hole in a plate and it's led to low system pressure, let me know in the comments, because I'd be interested in that. This is one of my granddad's old paraffin blow lamps, and I've probably got about 100 of these, all ones he used to use that he left me, sadly, when he died. And this is one that I cleaned up, thought I'd use it as sort of an ornament on my desk to remind me of him. So I'm going to show you now the video of how I cleaned it up. And also, by the way, if you've ever heard a cat meowing in the back of my videos, that's Lily. Yeah, show you how I restored it or cleaned it up, and then also me filling it up and firing it up. So I just wanted to talk to you again about the mental health side of our job, because since I sort of mentioned that I'd suffered with a bit of anxiety, there's been so many people message me, and even in the comments on the video, you could see a lot of us go through it. We're all in the same boat. But I've had a lot of messages, private messages from people saying that it helped that I was talking about it, and they liked reading other people's comments. And I had a message from one guy, I won't mention his name, and I asked him if he wanted to film a video to talk to you guys about it, but he didn't want to be on camera, which is understandable. I don't particularly like being on camera. This is the worst bit of doing these videos. So basically, he said that he's lost motivation for the job, doesn't really particularly find it easy getting up in the morning and going out to work. He's leaving the house later in the day, and that sort of resonated with me, because that's kind of what I went through during lockdown. Half of the reason was there wasn't that much work at the very start, and I got used to doing jobs at home and sort of enjoying life a bit more, rather than just waking up, going to work, coming home, having my dinner, falling asleep, and then you wake up and you're back at work again. I realised that that's not the kind of life I want to live anymore. So the fact that I was at home during the start of lockdown, I started to appreciate that more, and now I try and not book anything after 4 p.m. But yeah, I was struggling. I was leaving later and later. I was exercising in the morning. When I was leaving late, it's because I was doing some exercise, but that's because that's kind of my thing. But I could sit there, you know, watching the news, reading the paper, watching Frasier in the morning, and then having, you know, my 10th cup of tea before I decide to actually leave the house. And the other thing I was doing, which I've mentioned before, when I was getting to a job, rather than just get out of my van, go in and get it done, which is what I would have normally done, I was sitting in the van, I was looking on my phone, I was daydreaming, I was just delaying going in because I wasn't really up for it. Now, the way I sort of snapped out of it was I started doing my YouTube videos again, and then I became motivated to go and do the jobs because I was thinking, oh, maybe I could make a video out of this. Maybe this will be an interesting job for YouTube. But the guy who's messaged me, and he's sort of stuck in this kind of rut where he can't get motivated, and he's not keen to just get out and work. Has anyone got any advice for him? Because I think him reading the comments, if any of you have been through it, how you got out of it, or if you're going through it now, if you've got anything you can say that will help him or make him feel like he's not alone, then please leave him a comment in the comments. And yeah, hopefully we can all help each other out a bit. If you are struggling with your mental health and you want to chat about it, my DMs are always open. My phone number, if you want it for a chat, if you want to give me a call anytime, that's fine as well. Just leave me a comment and I'll give you my mobile number. You can find it pretty easily, but if you want it, I'm happy to chat. Fitting an outside tap. Don't ask me about this, nothing to do with me. So they wanted an extra outside tap. Using one of these, if you've not seen these before, it's a back plate with a piece of copper pipe on it already. Wall plate, 350 tube, so 350 mil of 15 mil copper. I just think they make a nicer job than like your standard wing back elbow. So that's going through the wall into underneath the kitchen cupboard. I'm just going to connect onto the cold there. Got a check valve included in the tap, and then I'll put an isolation valve on the feed to that. So I've locked on the thread. This is going to be difficult with one hand, but basically open it up and just squeeze that on the thread. Just a very small amount, it's going to go all the way around, and then I'll show you it now when we're on the back plate. So just put a bit on the start of the thread there, and I'm going to turn that in, and as it turns in, it will fill the gaps in the thread. We've probably got one more turn on that. Okay, that's about in line there. So now, because it's metal on metal, the Loctite's going to cure. So while I'm doing the work on the inside, that's curing, and then we'll put some water through it, test it, and I'll show you. Just going to clean off any excess, but there isn't really any on there to clean off. We're connecting the back of this cupboard. Took the false backing off the cupboard, and because it's in the back of the cupboard and this is going to be covering it, I'm just pressing it. So I'm using press fittings, but because it's tight, I'm struggling to get my press jaw in, so I'm going to be using the angle jaw adapter kit. So if you've not seen that before, you'll be interested in this. So I'll just get on the pipe now. So that's the pipe coming out the wall is my outside tap, and then I've got the angle jaw adapter just around the fitting there, and hopefully I'll be able to get my press gun in now. Right, so if you need pressing, you know, certain places you can't get your press tool in because of the angle of it. So that's the angle jaw set. It's allowed me to get close to the wall where I wouldn't get my press tool in to press a fit in, but even that, look where I've got the tool, it's like jammed between the sink and that piece of wood. It wasn't easy even with the angle jaws, but they do get you out the shit sometimes. I'm upside down in the cupboard, by the way. And I'll just, in case you didn't know, so this one, like a collar, goes around the fitting, and then this jaw here attaches onto it, and then you obviously press it as normal. So this squeezes onto this, and then that squeezes the fitting. You've probably seen me using these Backhoe Benders before. This is my original set. I bought these for 70 quid from a tool fair about 4 years ago, but they discontinued them or recalled them because they rip all the copper. So the set I have been using was their new set that they're sort of trialing, and I was just road testing it for them, but they've had that back now. So I'm back to using my old one. So we're going to do a live bend now on my old one that used to rip all the copper to see what it does. So I'm just going to bend a 90 on it to about there. Let's see if it's rippled it or not. Yeah, it's rippled it. It's a shame. I think it's the thickness of the copper. So in Europe, their copper tends to be quite, not quite a lot, but a bit thicker than ours. And because it's thin, it ripples it. But yeah, it's no good if it's going to be on show. It's going to be on that sink unit though, so I'll still use that. No waste. Water's on, that's live now. So I'll let some out, you can just see. Get close so you can see that we've got no leaks. It's probably been about 20-25 minutes. Lovely job.
Hi guys, happy Father's Day. I've just finished the second week of my gas course and everything's going well. The first week was a little bit slow with things like safety and all the introductions and a couple of bits that I knew what I was doing with really, but it's starting to move forward now. We've completed our section on tightness testing and purging, which is a lot of numbers to take in, but yeah, I feel like I'm pretty much there now. So once that theory part was done, I got to go into the classroom and do some practical work, which I really enjoyed. We got to do some mock kind of framework and then hook that up to the meter and then to an outlet as well. There's a little bit of a video showing you what I did there. And yeah, on to the next stage now, which is chimneys and flues. So that'll start next week. And yeah, at the end of the week, I'll let you know how it went again. Oh, this is today's assessment. I'm given a little plan here to go by. Working from the meter, bit of steel, pass over, compression, offset, 90-degree bend. Yeah, I think it's turned out quite well. Along there. Now there's a 90 on the end of there, a little bit different to that bayonet plan there, but because under bayonet I've got, it's not an angled one. Yeah, I'm happy with it. So once this was all done, I pressure tested it, it's all sound. Did alright with the solder. This one's a little bit dirty because a fair few people have used this in the centre, but all of my joints are pretty clean. Yeah, not too bad. A little bit worse down there, but all in all, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Also, I wanted to say thank you for all the comments, both on YouTube and messages on Instagram. There's been a lot of people both giving me advice and asking for advice for how to get onto these courses and what have you. So yeah, it's been good and keep them coming. Thank you.
Oh, my name's Greg, EMS Plumbing and Heating down in sunny Cornwall, and I cheers Pete for sticking my video on. So just quite recently, this was last November, just had some time off. I come back, second day back, something like that, and I was subcontracting to a local firm, some mates of mine. Nice easy job. Just go to a house, kitchen sink had been fitted by someone else but needed second fixing. Hob to fit, tops are in. Alright, cool. So I shot down there, picked up the bits, jumped on the sink, placed, hot coals, tested. Lovely, nice and easy. Gas hob, run outside, test the gas, come back in, hob out, stupid little strip on, and put it in, connected, test the gas again, sweet, fine. Clips, so had a little look around where the clips go, seen them, picked up a screw out, thought that's a bit long. So with me, I shot to my van and I got a short screw. 3 of them. So I got underneath, lay in those stupid positions we all get in with the impactor and your back's and your neck's crooked, and yeah, 1, 2, 3. By this point I've been there an hour and a half, thought, sweet, right on. Chuck the impact out the cupboard, stick my hand up on the worktop. What's that? Get out, and Muggins here, and then checked his screw properly. Screw tip straight through a brand new worktop. To add serious insult to injury, on pitch you've got your hob, worktop. There is a join on this worktop, bang smack in the middle of this hob. I had done it either side of the join. 2 lengths, rather expensive worktop. Not nice having to pay for before Christmas, but customer was fine. These things happen. Spoke to the guy whose job it was, and he informed me that actually in his career he's done it, but you will only do it once. Believe me, you will only do it once. But there you go. I hope you have a little bit of a giggle at my expense, and check your screws before you go screwing a worktop. Thanks again, Pete. Take care, guys.
That's a good I fucked up story, because you can learn from that. And I learned that the hard way. One of the very first jobs I did when I was left in a house on my own was fitting a bathroom suite. And I didn't know, because no one had ever told me this. The screws that the bath legs come attached to the bath frame are the screws you use to then screw the legs to the bath. I didn't know that. So I threw them away and just got some screws out my screw box. And the first one went straight through the bath. So ruined the bath. Lesson learned. Never done it again. And that's how you learn. And that's the best way to learn. Obviously, it's not the best way because I've ruined a bath, but I've never done it again since. So if you've watched that, be very careful. If you get screws with something, they're probably the screws that you want to use.